Hey everyone, Gary Simon of Coursetro. Today I'm going to be tackling a graphic design type of tutorial in that we're going to design a business card. Now the reason being is my third most popular video on this channel is actually a video from 4 years ago, how to design a business card. I wanted to revisit that topic just to create a new, fresh version, updated version of the tutorial and offer some potentially better insights and new insights for those of you who find yourself in a position where you either have to design a business card for somebody else or for your own business using Adobe Illustrator. So if you fall into one of those categories, you're probably going to be able to walk away having gained something with this video. So first, we're going to design a business card, and this is it right here. We're not using Photoshop, even though I have Photoshop open here, but I'm going to make the logo file here available so that you can follow along as we do this. I really believe in, if you're trying to learn something, don't just watch the video, try to follow along as well. It'll help commit things more to memory. All right, so I'm also at the end, once we're done designing the actual vector business card, I'm gonna show you how to place it in this sort of cool 3D mock-up template. And there's a bunch of these available on a lot of different websites, and I'll show you how this works as well. All right, so this is basically the final product. And so the very first thing that you want to consider when you're designing a business card, the very first consideration would be, all right, what size exactly? And that's really going to depend on who you're using for printing the business card. You're going to use some service. Most of you are probably going to use some service online, whether that's like Vistaprint or Moo.com, etc. And almost always these larger sites will have a template section where you can just download the template that you need, which will have the exact specifications all worked into the file. So that's what I've done here. And I'm just going to use Moo.com as an example. They're a pretty large site for business cards and printing stuff like that. And they have a template section. And let's see here. So Moo size business card templates. If I click on that, and by the way, I'll try to link this right in the description of the YouTube video so you don't have to try to find this page on your own. We could see for a landscape size, let me get this a little bit bigger. We can see that for a landscape size, we have an Adobe Photoshop, PSD files, a JPEG. You don't probably really want to use that, but we see at the top Adobe Illustrator, which is an AI file. That's the one that's most ideal to use. Although you can use Photoshop if you wish, you just have to make sure that you're working within a large enough file, which this would guarantee if you're using the template. So I'm going to use this one right here, the Adobe Illustrator template, the PDF/AI file. So once that downloads, and this is going to say something about honoring 9-slice scaling of symbols. Don't show again. I'm just going to say yes for that. All right, so this is what most of them are going to look like when it comes to these templates here that you download from these printer websites. And they're all pretty much going to have, if they're decent at least, this stuff here around the borders. And you have 3 different areas. You have your bleed area, which is denoted in this pink section. You have the trim, and then you have the safe area, which is the dash section. So what do these mean? Well, this particular template tells you right here about what they are, but just to give you a general gist, anything that's like a background, like you have a background image or you have a photograph that you want to extend all the way to the very edge of the card needs to go into this section. That's all the way basically to the entire canvas. And outside of this right here is the trim line. This is where it's actually going to be cut. That's why you want anything that's supposed to be a background image or a background color or photograph, you want that to extend outside of it, not right on it, because then you might get white areas on your edges. So you want it to go all the way out here. And then inside here, the safe area, this is where you do not want to have any type of type or your logos. Because anything that's kind of important needs to go well inside. You want to give it enough like padding and margin from that dashed line. All right. So with that said, this will basically provide you with that template, and you can here in Illustrator, if you go to layers, we can see that we have 2 different layer sections right here. We have the artwork guidelines, which we can hide. And then we have your design, and this is where really you want all your paths and your type and stuff to reside inside of here. So we're going to be referring back and forth to this just to ensure that our alignment is all, as it needs to be essentially. All right, so I'm going to toggle that off for now. And here's the part where it gets really subjective. When you're just beginning to design your business card, you have to ask yourself, well, what content do I want on it? Obviously your business name. If you're a freelancer, you're just going to put your name, obviously. Do you want to have like a slogan or a sub headline that's a part of your business name or your name? You're probably going to want a form of contact. This is all very basic stuff. But outside of the content, how do you want to actually design it? Again, hugely subjective. But one of the things that you probably want to integrate almost, 99 million times is, or out of 99 million and one times is your brand identity colors, your visual identity. You really want to reinforce that. That means using your logo, using the colors that are associated with your brand. All right. So for me, and I'm going to link this here, this file, as we can see, it's empty. This is the logo here. It's currently white. That's why you can't see it. This is my logo for Cretro. And if I copy this, and by the way, if you have your own vector artwork and you open up, you want to make sure before you copy anything like that, you want to go to File, Document Color Mode, make sure it's on CMYK first, and then copy. All right. And then you can go ahead and paste it. Because otherwise, if it's on RGB and then you copy and then you try to paste it, it's going to ask you if you want to change the document color settings because they conflict. You don't want to do that, obviously. You want to keep it at CMYK. So right here, I'm just going to drag this up to the top. Now, for Cretro, my primary color for my visual identity is this one right here. And this is actually in my swatches. Like if I go here, let me see here. If I were to draw a little section out like that, let's see here. Yeah, I think this is showing up on a different screen. There we go. And I click on this right here. It's a swatch right here. And it's telling me the CMYK values, which is 78, 7, 62, and 0. If I go back here, we create a new rectangle. I'm just going to drag out something like that. I'm going to get rid of the stroke. All right. And then right here, oh, we can see the swatches are already here. So I can just click that and there we go. So I want to have the logo at the top, and we can see these are right now two different things here. I'm going to group those right there. So Control G will group them. And we can see these in the layers section up here. If you don't see the layers panel, by the way, you can go to Window and Layers. And if we expand this, we'll see these. All right, so I want to have the logo here. Let's see, I'm not going to have it just like this. Like if I take everything down like that, while holding Shift and scaling it, and going up around here, we'll take both of those, holding Shift and drag them up. All right, so I could just leave it like that, but I kind of want to have these three little dots, the actual symbol for the logo, right aligned. So I'm holding Shift just to expand this. All right, so now it says Cretro, and then it has the logo or the actual symbol over here that is right aligned. This right here, we can go to 1,000 different ways in terms of just designing and being unique or whatever. For me, I'm going to put in a area or a piece of type that's underneath this, kind of like a sub headline or like a slogan. So I'm just going to take the type tool, left click once, and I'm going to say full stack dev education. Full stack development education. That's basically what the business is about. So if I go to properties, we'll change this to white. All right, and we'll go and change the character, the font. I'm going to use a font called Montserrat. I think that's how it's pronounced. And we'll just go to regular. All right, and this is a free font, by the way, so if you go to Google and type Montserrat font download, you can find it if you want to use the same one. I like it a lot. And let's take down this size here. So I'm just holding Shift and scaling in. Now, one very, 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 very important thing I want to mention right now, because we're dealing with type. Whenever you're dealing with type on a business card, you want to make sure people can read it. And this is one of the things that can get newcomers to design kind of screwed up. So right now we're dealing with a size, and by the way, we could scroll up and down using the Alt and the scroll wheel. Right now we're dealing with it's very large on my desktop here, and I can see it and I can read it easily. But with it being this large, this isn't actually how large your business card is. That would be really large. It's like a size of like a full piece of regular printer paper, right? Well, yeah, you can read it here, but are you going to be able to read it when it's the actual size, which may be something more like this? So these are considerations that you have to take into account. So chances are, if you have it large and it's still pretty hard to read, even when it's large, then it's definitely going to be much more difficult to read when it's in the actual format. All right, so that's just one thing to definitely note. Readability, huge. Another thing to note is when you're dealing with this important elements that people need to be able to read, like your type, make sure you have great contrast. So in this example, we have this, I would say it's not dark, but it's definitely a lot more contrast than white. But so it's definitely on the darker side. Anything on top needs to contrast in terms of type as much as possible. So I made it white. That will give me the maximum amount of contrast. So yeah, we may have the scale right, and people will be able to read it when it's on a business card. However, if the color is something more like, I don't know, that's going to look like garbage. And you're going to hurt people's eyes. They're not going to be able to read. They have to squint. So always try to go for a lot of contrast. You don't necessarily have to use absolute white, but make sure everything contrasts. Same thing with a light background. You're going to make sure you're going to want it to be darker or black, etc. I'm going to back up a few times. All right, so now we could just leave this part like this and then put like contact information. But if you want to do something that's more unique in terms of design aesthetics, then we could do something like this. So if you have like a general shape that you've drawn out here in Illustrator, you could use this tool right here, which is the direct selection tool that allows you to select the actual anchor points and move them around. So we could do something like that. I'm holding Shift while dragging. And that way we create just kind of an interesting sort of slant on this containing element right here. So that looks pretty cool. We could take it a step further. We could Control C, then Control F it, and come take the one that's underneath it, because that basically duplicates it. I'm going to use my keyboard down arrow key. All right, we'll change it to maybe be a little bit lighter. So if I double click this, come up around there, it's 80EDCE for the hex value color if you want to be exact. All right, that's kind of cool. We could take the direct selection tool again, maybe move it up. Maybe move this one down slightly. And there we go. We created a sort of just cool graphical element right there for the containing portion up here. And this helps separate really what is two different parts of this business card. We have, okay, what is this business card for? And so it has its own kind of unique aesthetic up here. And then we have secondary information in terms of who is behind this, what is their contact information. So this is just one way to approach it. It's not, the end all be all. It'd be kind of lame if everybody used the same type of thing. But that's just one way to approach it. So continuing on, before we continue though, I'm going to take this artwork guidelines layer and put it all the way to the top. So I'm just left clicking and dragging up here. And let's bring it back to see visibility. So you want to make sure, another very important design guideline and fundamental to follow is you want to make sure your elements are equally aligned. So I'm just looking at this dashed line right here. And I want to make sure that this logo and this piece of type right here have equal distance from the top and the left portion of this dash line. So there's more, I would say white space or padding up here than there is to the left. So we can move this over holding shift, and now we have a more, equal and evenly spaced composition here. And that just makes things overall look better. Same thing right here. This looks actually pretty good for me. We have pretty much equal space, so I'm good with that. All right, and everything is looking pretty good so far. We can also see that we have a fair amount of, let me go ahead, by the way, and hide this part. I'm gonna unlock that and just hide this. So it looks like we have a fair amount of white space between our elements and the part where it's actually gonna be cut. So that's important. All right, you don't want things smashed up to the side. It's gonna look like crap. Okay, so continuing on, I'm gonna go ahead back and we'll hide that. Now we're gonna add some type in terms of, what we want, whatever type of information that they're gonna, we want people to know who actually have the card. So obviously it's probably going to be your name 9 times out of 10. So with the type tool, oh, by the way, maybe we don't have to do that. Let me just delete that real quick. We could take this one since it's already the same, the type element, the font's already selected, the weight is, and just hit Control-C, Control-F, hold Shift, and drag it down. All right, so let's go back to properties here, and we'll just make it black. And I'll just put my name. All right, Gary Simon. We'll put in maybe a bold for this. All right, and then let's also, coming down here, I'll keep it the same layer. I'm gonna put CEO of course, Cetro.com, whatever. And so, sorry, my throat's been screwed up for the last like 2 weeks. So let's go ahead and, here's a great part. I want to talk about another design fundamental. This next section is called visual hierarchy. So what the heck is that? Let me get that out of the way. Well, essentially, visual hierarchy is all about using design to place emphasis and importance and prioritize the content that's a part of your design, essentially. What is most important? What do you want people to see first? So if we look here in relation to the name and, who I am or what my role is as a part of this company, we can see that they have equal importance because there's nothing that's separating them in terms of scale, font weight, color, etc. But clearly, my name is more important than just my role. So one of the things we want to do is create separation through these elements. And the way we do that is you could do it several different ways, and you could do it in multiple ways. First is, okay, well, maybe that shouldn't be bold. We'll just leave that at regular. All right, so now, oops, I screwed that up. There we go. So now we've created a separation in terms of our visual hierarchy, at least in regards to this element here. So we could see clearly Gary Simon, it sticks out first. We see that more. But still, I don't think it should be the same size, so let's scale that down. So we could take the size here, let's see. We'll try around 6 points. And that doesn't look too bad. So let's go ahead and increase the line height because you don't want them too close. All right, that seems a lot better in my opinion. All right, great. So let's also add, usually as outside of the name and your position or an individual's position as a part of a company, you'd also have contact information of some sort. So in terms of, prioritization and your visual hierarchy, this would probably fall second or, in terms of last, or in terms of being important, almost on the last or the tail end of things. So I'm going to Control-C, Control-F that, so we create a duplicate, and I'm going to right align. Let's move this over here. And you want to use your guides as well. We can see the right side of this is matching up to the right side of that element. All right, so now we could put in something like an email address. So let me go ahead and delete this. I'll put in contact@coursetro.com. I'll also put in a fake phone number. All right. So that's two ways of contact. And now, oops, Control C, Control F. Now we can go ahead and maybe put an address. So I don't know, 4192 Malibu Drive. Put in, let's see, Beverly Hills, 90210. All right, and then US. Okay. Now it's really starting to come along. And in terms of, again, one other way to emphasize visual hierarchy would be we can make the color of this maybe just more of on a gray side. Nothing too light because you want people to be able to read it easily, but then again, it creates more of a flow for the design to separate it in terms of color. So now let's bring back this artwork guide here. And now we can kind of see how this card is shaping up to look. We have good margin and padding and white space all around. You want to make sure it's pretty much consistent across everything. We could see that there's going to be a lot of space down here at the bottom though. I'm not sure if we really want that, so we could push this down a little bit more. Now there's equal space between the bottom of the US and the right of the US as well. All right, so that looks pretty good right there. Okay, so now at this point, I'm going to consider the card pretty much done. It's in terms of designing it, but there's still some other considerations that you have to take into account. So let's say you're happy with your design, you like how it looks. Now what? Well, now is the point where you should probably save a copy of your file because it has all of the type still intact. Now, once you've done that and then created a duplicate, we can go ahead and select everything and we can convert all the type elements to outlines. And that's the reason, because the reason for that is because when you send it off and you have the printers print it, then if they don't have those fonts, it's going to screw everything up. So you want to convert it to paths. So then you can just type in, or not type in, but hit the keyboard shortcut, Control Shift and the letter O. So now everything has been converted to paths. You can no longer modify the type here. All right, but now this ensures that who's ever printing it doesn't need the actual font. Okay, so now after that, the final consideration before you send this off or upload it is to hide the artwork and then simply just save it and you're ready to go. All right, so after that, you're pretty much finished. However, you can take it one step further, and this is particularly useful if you're a graphic designer and you want to showcase your design work, like maybe on Behance. It's cool to be able to use these different mock-up templates. And if you go to Google and you type in business card, Photoshop mock-up templates, or something like that, you'll come up with a lot of results. One such result is at graphicburger.com. They have a bunch of free different type of templates that you can use to showcase what your business card looks like. All right, so the one I chose is right here. And all you have to do is just click download. And I've already downloaded it, so I'm gonna open it up off screen real quick. And it's it's a good like 60 megs, I believe, for that one. So they can be pretty large in size. And so it's gonna have a zip file. Oops, let me get that back. Double click this. Open that up, and here we go. So the way this works is, make sure you go to Window, make sure you can see your layers, is you can see your design here. This is a smart object layer. If you just double click it, then it opens up what looks like a new document, but really it's a smart object layer. And you can basically put in anything that you want right here. So obviously we want to import our design of our business card. So there's a few ways you could do that. You could save this. You go to File, Save As, and save is one of the types that Photoshop can import. Me though, I'm just going to print screen it because I'm lazy. So if I go to Alt, print screen, I copy everything in this current window and paste it, and then put it maybe right around here, and then save it. We go back. There we go. And that is the business card. So you can do that same process. That's basically how all of those smart objects work, those templates and those mockups. All right, so hopefully you guys learned a lot. I know it's kind of rambling there, but I really wanted to try to, reinforce the concepts that you really need to adhere to if you're designing a business card and you want it to be effective. So just to reiterate, when you're designing your business card, you want to make sure you follow a few of these design principles. So the first one is readability, which means you want to have great contrast between your foreground, which would be your type, and your background. So if you're using a light background, darker, and try to make it, you want your text to be dark as possible. And vice versa, obviously. Outside of that, size, you want to make sure that you could definitely read. You're going to be able to read what's on your business card, especially the type. And also visual hierarchy. Try to separate your design in a way that makes sense using visual aesthetics like size, color, and scale and position as well. All right, so if you like this, make sure you subscribe here and check out my site, coursetro.com. All right, see you guys later.